So what I'm going to do today, I've been asked to do a short presentation on what do social care workers do. There is confusion out there, there's no doubt about that, as proved by, we've talked to loads of people today at our particular stall, and there was a lot of confusion about what is social care. Indeed, one of the guys announcing this said, what do social workers do? So therefore there's definitely confusion in relation to social care and social work. So I'm going to fly through this and just to give you a sense of what they actually do and where they came from, etc. in Ireland. So what do you do? It's a question you're asked at any particular party when you meet somebody. The first thing they say is, and what do you do? And if you say you're a social care worker, that I did for many years, because for many years I was a social care worker in the area of disability, trying to explain what you do sometimes can be very difficult. So therefore you have to try and work your way around it. And indeed one of the common questions you're asked is basically, is social care work the same as social work? That's the first question out of the box. And what you have to say is, they deal with a similar set of people. They deal with similar demographic groups. They deal with people who are basically vulnerable, the system's not working for them, or there's issues arisen that is causing them to have problems around their quality of life, etc. So therefore, in relation to both social care work and social work, yes, we deal with those groups, but in very different ways. Social workers are normally graduated masters level 9. They come in as key professionals looking to deliver packages and to support people in relation to dealing with the many myriad of systems. And if you've ever actually had to deal with a system yourself, for example, if you have a child with a disability, to deal with the bureaucracy that actually exists out there, you definitely need a social worker on your side, because it's a real maze. So therefore, social work deals with that side of things. Social care work is quite different in that you're really living in the person's life space. You're supporting the person maybe through their everyday life. So it may be through their work or through their leisure, but primarily it may well be through where they live and what they do on a day-to-day basis. And I'm going to come into that later on. Are you a care assistant? Again, you may deal with situations that healthcare assistants deal with, like a person's self-care or a person's diet, etc. But as a social care worker, you're far more likely to be dealing with it on a more planning level. You're auditing maybe or trying to find out what a person can do, and maybe setting up systems so they can learn new life skills, etc. And are you a community worker? Yes, a lot of social care work happens in the community, but you're not primarily a community worker in relation to what you do. One of the key aims of a social care worker is to ensure that people actually make the best use of the community and where they're living. So the best use of facilities, best use of education, best use of the shopping facilities, etc. And therefore, you need to have a good sense of what your community is and what it offers, but you're not working primarily in the community. Do you work alone? As a social care worker, there may be periods of time where you work alone, but you are part of a massive group of people, a multidisciplinary team that will support people wherever they are within the community, etc., wherever they are within their lives. So that's the sort of questions you may answer at a party in relation to what do you do. Is your job boring as a social care worker? I can say there wasn't a day where I worked in my role, which was for 10 years I supported and managed a house for people who had intellectual disability and were labelled as challenging. I didn't find some of them particularly challenging, but were labelled as challenging, and therefore was my day boring? Far from it. Every day was quite an event, but it's one of those jobs where people always say to you when you're interviewing them, I want to do something that actually makes a difference. Social care makes a difference on an everyday basis to the people you're supporting, and hopefully I'm going to explain that later on. But as for being boring, absolutely not. So what do you do? Or where does social care come from? It's actually nearly a uniquely Irish thing. It arose 60s, 70s, again, your classic Irish story, where services were maybe providing or not providing appropriate supports for young people within services. And indeed, we're very aware of all the reports that have come out in Ireland in relation to institutional abuse, etc. And indeed, social care work itself has arisen out of wanting to provide better services for the people who you're actually meant to support. So therefore, the first group was residential childcare, and I think the first course for social care was delivered in Kilkenny in the early 70s. And from there now, there are many, many institutions that deliver social care on a degree level. So therefore, teenagers, but then it started on young people and trying to provide that residential childcare support. But it's kind of grown into a multitude of groups. The biggest group of social care workers work within the area of disability, supporting people with disability in their everyday lives, either in their residential or in their work, or, as I said, in their leisure pursuits or whatever, but they support people with a disability to live the best quality of life they can and actually lead the life they want to lead. So therefore, working in the area of disability is another area that social care workers work in. Working with the elderly as well, again, not as a healthcare assistant, but maybe working again with community groups, etc., trying to ensure that people who are older are supported again to live the quality of life that they want to live. So therefore, social care work has moved into that area as well through organisations like the Alzheimer's Society, etc. Then they work primarily as well with migrants. So you could work supporting a migrant family who've recently moved over to Ireland, etc. Again, trying to find their feet and trying to find what's the best course to actually for them to live their best quality of life as well. And again, it's working with people in poverty. In Ireland, there's always been this particular group, and indeed recently, social care has always kind of evolved and continued to evolve, so to deal with the different responses in society. And recently, sadly, in Ireland, one of the growth industries is homeless hubs. Homeless hubs was originally a project that was meant to support one particular group of people. And of the last count, there's over 20 homeless hubs in Ireland where families live while they're awaiting a home. As part of that homeless hub, social care workers ensure they engage with the families again to ensure that they're living the best quality of life they actually can live, and to deal with to link them in with the services they need, and also make sure that they're getting the resources they require. It's and also dealing with people in extreme poverty, etc. And finally, for example, I was looking across what other things social care workers do. Another interesting project is the link with women prisons in Ireland, and is supporting the mothers to keep links and to develop relationships, etc., with their their children while they're in prison. So again, that's just another example of the wide church that is social care. Social care is not one particular thing. It can be a number of ways to deal with a number of groups, to actually achieve a number of outcomes. So what exactly do you do? Again, Raymond, stick to the point. What exactly do you do? It's really dealing with people and finding out what is their vision of a desirable future. What exactly do they want to be doing in 3 years' time? So therefore, you keep asking the person, what is your vision of a desirable future? For example, in the work I did within disability services, you would ask people what they wanted. Now, again, it can be disparaging work, because if I asked you, for example, you pretended, or maybe somebody has in the audience, not too sure, but maybe you pretend that you've won 100 million on the Euro lottery, okay? So what would you do with your life? And we've asked numbers of groups in this particular course right across the country, what would you do? And people normally say things like, I'd buy houses for all my relatives, I'd give money to charity, I'd tour the world, I'd go up and down Route 66 with a Mohican on my head on a Harley Davidson, etc., etc. And they talk about all the sexy things they want to do with their life. Now, the thing is that if you talk to somebody in a similar way, who's in a service, for example, a person with a disability, the depressing thing is that they will normally ask for stuff that is actually everybody's rights. So they'll ask for education, they'll ask for a job, they'll ask to go home more, they'll ask to actually deal with, deal with everyday issues they're dealing with. So people the people we're working with or supporting as social care workers, actually, when you actually say, what's your vision of a desirable future? It's actually, I want my rights. So therefore, as a social care worker, one of your roles is to actually ensure that the people actually get their rights in moving forward. Another thing you do is empowerment. Now, you're dealing with a group of people who may not be empowered, may due to life circumstances. Like another group I work with is people, and it's quite interesting to work with this particular group, people with acquired brain injuries. So therefore, when you're actually dealing with that particular group, these people have actually lived a life up to that point. They've lived a life where they may have got married, they may have had kids, they may have had a job, etc. But that, when it actually comes to acquired brain injury, you're kind of saying, okay, what exactly, suddenly they find where they had all the power, they have no power. So suddenly they may not have a job, they may not have an appropriate education to get a job, etc., etc. Again, working with the elderly as well, it's empowerment. One of the most powerful things I've ever seen is working with a nursing home was actually saying to the people you support, rightio, if you're supporting a person within a nursing home, one of the most powerful questions you can ask them is, what job did you do when you were actually, when you were younger, when you were my age? And the power that actually gives people. So you find out people were in the army, in the navy, policeman, banker, etc., etc. And just that empowerment, empowering people to believe in themselves and empower people to actually live the quality of life they want to live. That is a key part of being a social care worker. Advocacy, interesting thing, giving people a voice who may not necessarily have a voice. So say for example I said to you, think of a place you would rather be than sitting here at the moment listening to me. So a holiday destination. So think of a holiday destination, okay? Pretend you're all service users in my service. So when I count to 3, I want you all to tell me what holiday destination you want to go to, okay? So I'm going to count and be loud about it. 1, 2, 3. Okay, rightio, so people have arranged. Say for example in my service and they said, okay, we're going to go to Lourdes this year, okay? Anybody pick Lourdes? No? Where we're going? Rightio. That's where we're going this year. No, advocacy is all about listening to people. So it's listening to people. I think somebody said Tenerife. Was it? At the back there, Tenerife. So therefore, if you're working as a social care worker, you'd work with that individual to ensure that they actually got to Tenerife. And where to sell? Young man in the front here. And where did you say? New York. So this young man wants to go to New York, so we would support him to get to New York. Individual basis. Person-centeredness, focusing on the individual. That's what social care work's all about. And to do that, advocacy. You listen to people and then you make what they want real. That's what advocacy is about. 2 steps, 2 very simple steps. Okay, social justice. So therefore, as a social care worker, it's to be social justice is what you're looking for. So to ensure that people, everybody, yourself, the people you work with, etc., everybody achieves social justice. So it's through activism and it's through being passionate. It's about ensuring that if you know somebody has rights, people have rights to an education. Kathy Sinnott had to fight for the right for her son to gain education in this country. So therefore, people sometimes may have the right, but they do not have the access. So therefore, as a social care worker, you're pursuing the need to ensure that people acquire their social justice. Countries are very good at telling you there's the Constitution, that's what you have a right to, but you don't have it. So therefore, let's move on. I'm happy enough. But social justice, when you're a social care worker, you work with an individual and you say, we're going to try and achieve social justice for you, for your group, for everyone. Life skills. As a social care worker, you will support somebody to acquire life skills. As my job supporting people with a disability, this was probably one of the best fun bits. So therefore, you're working with people who may, for example, I worked with a bloke who, for example, wanted to learn to cook, but his staff are a bit cagey about that. So what we decided was, what we'd actually do is, we teach him to cook basic pizza. So we basically had to learn how to toast a bit of pita bread, put tomato kind of passata on it, and then put cheese on it and cook the pizza. This guy never cooked anything before. Suddenly, there he was, cooking stuff. So therefore, and from that, it's building up the skills. And people have learned skill upon skill upon skill, as we all do. That's what today was about, building skill upon skill upon skill. So in the end, we do what we want to do. We do and build in, we want to do, or achieve our vision of a desirable future, and to do that, we need skills. So therefore, that's what you do as a social care worker. You ensure people have their skills. Other thing is you look to ensure about their health, about ensuring they have a good understanding of calendars, times. You're again dealing with the justice, and you're dealing with moving house, etc., etc. So therefore, any skills anybody else needs, you're supporting somebody as a social care worker to achieve them. So do you have what you need to become a social care worker? So therefore, are you self-reflective? Do you do something and then look at yourself in the mirror and say, what did I do well, but what could I have done better? If you're self-reflective, you would be a good social care worker. Have you empathy? So therefore, empathy is different from sympathy. Sympathy is where you feel pity. I remember as a care worker getting on buses, and the bus driver would say the inevitable, sure, God help them. Aren't you going to be sitting at the right hand of God whenever it's all done? And you're kind of going, no, I'm actually just doing my job, but that's fine, Empathy is different from sympathy. Empathy is actually getting into somebody else's shoes and saying, what would I need there? Well, how would I feel if I was living that quality of life? Where exactly am I going? And empathy is all about that. Good listener. Are you a good listener? So therefore, and a good listener is somebody who's not thinking of what to say while you're talking. You know the type. Indeed, I find that in life. I've dealt with many a person who would rather talk about what they've done rather than listen to what you've done. They'd rather talk about their work, whether they be a lorry driver, whether they be a policeman, whatever they do, it's a situation where they are not listening to you. To be a social care worker, you need to listen. You need to listen, and there's certain models we teach people. So therefore, for example, there's the flower model. Do you face the person? Do you lean towards them? Have you an open posture? Are you watching them? Do you make eye contact, and do you relax? That's flower. That's an acronym for flower. If you do that, then you'll more than likely actively listen to what the person is actually saying. And finally, have you attention to detail? You need to have attention to detail. You're dealing with people's lives. You're dealing with serious situations, so having attention to detail is absolutely fundamental. And are you a change agent? Are you going to change not only the person's life you're working with, but are you also going to change the systems that are actually maybe actively working against the people you're trying to support? Change agent. Let's change what we actually have. And at the moment, the world is changing rapidly. So we need to make sure it changes in the right direction. As a social care worker, that's absolutely, you're going to be doing that. And at the minute, it's an interesting time to become a social care worker because it's one of the stated professions on the Kuru's Health and Social Care Professionals Act 2005. And at the minute, it is in the process of becoming regulated. It's all on the Kuru website. But again, it is now recognised as a profession, and quite rightly so within Ireland, because it's had a massive influence in the way society's actually gone in Ireland, and it needs to going forward in the present situation we find ourselves. Social care workers are not a nice to have, they are the cake. They are not the cream on the cake. And therefore, the Open Training College delivers a degree, the BA in Social Care. I'm just going to give a quick overview on this. Basically, it's a QQI level 7, 3-year degree. You have 800 hours of practice placement. It's actually 816 over year 2 and year 3. We're one of 14 institutions who've made an application for Kuru. That includes places like TUD, City Campus, Blanchardstown Campus, IT Athlone, IT Tralee, etc. And therefore, on the blended model, we deliver in a mixture of online and classroom. And we're presented, one of the key rules in the Open Training College, or one of the key bits of policy, is you cannot present within the Open Training College or tutor in the Open Training College unless you've actually been a practitioner for at least 3 years. Okay? That is the end of my presentation. Are there any questions?